Imagine for a second, just for a second, you're back in elementary school.
Okay.
It's the middle of January. You're all bundled up in that puffy coat, the one that makes you walk like a marshmallow.
Oh, yeah, I know that coat.
And the bell rings for recess. You burst out the doors expecting, well, the usual. The frozen blacktop, the squeaky swings.
Maybe a patch of black eyes to avoid.
Exactly. But instead, the laws of physics have just decided to take a long lunch break. The ground isn't where it's supposed to be. The swings are swaying in the open sky.
The whole playground has just detached itself from the earth.
Yeah, it's just bobbing around in the air like a cork in a bathtub.
It's such a striking image to start with. It immediately just disrupts our whole understanding of what a safe space is supposed to look like.
Right.
Usually, safety means solid ground, fences, gravity keeping your feet planted. But here, safety is completely redefined.
Completely. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. It's a really fascinating piece of text from The Gravity of Kindness, specifically a story called The Floating Winter Playground.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be honest, when I first started reading this, I thought, okay, cute. Magic snow, flying swings, a whimsical winter tale.
Sure, that's the surface level.
But about 2 pages in, I realized this isn't really a fairy tale. It reads more like a high-stakes social experiment.
Designed by a behavioral economist who happens to love snow.
That is a surprisingly accurate description. Yes, on the surface, it's a story about a magical recess. But if you peel back that whimsy, what we're analyzing is a unique system.
A system where physical safety is directly and immediately tied to social behavior.
Right. In our world, the real world, you can be rude to someone, you can cut someone off in traffic, and the floor doesn't usually tilt underneath you.
Which is probably for the best, or I think we'd all be in trouble.
I'd be falling out of my chair constantly.
Right. But in Maple Hollow, the setting of this story, the environment has what you might call immediate biofeedback. The infrastructure reacts physically to how people interact.
So if the social cohesion breaks.
The physical platform breaks.
So our mission today is to unpack the mechanics of this floating world. We want to understand how this system works, what causes it to catastrophically fail, because spoiler alert, it does, and what it teaches us about, balance, patience, and inclusion.
And the stakes are way higher than just, will I get a turn on the slide?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about a structural collapse at altitude.
It's a fascinating model of risk. So let's set the scene. We're in Maple Hollow.
Right, so it's snowing gently. The text describes the rooftops as turning all white and sparkly. It's that perfect, quiet winter atmosphere where everything sounds a little muffled.
And then the anomaly hits.
Yeah.
The playground just looks wrong.
Wrong is one way to put it. Impossible is probably another. It isn't sitting on the asphalt anymore.
No, it's described as gently bobbing above the school like a giant snowy cloud.
And the visual details are they're kind of disorienting but amazing. The swings aren't attached to a metal frame. They're just hanging from nothing, swaying in the open sky.
The slide is shimmering with icy rainbows.
No. And the monkey bars, they're hovering like silver ladders to the clouds. It sounds like a Salvador Dali painting, but, cozy.
It creates a sense of wonder, for sure. But think about the psychological impact of that. You have these familiar objects, swings, slides, but they're totally stripped of their context.
There is no ground.
Exactly. That disorientation is crucial because it makes the children hyper-aware that the old rules, they just don't apply here.
And then we get the terms of service agreement.
Literally dropping from the sky.
Yeah, a sign just drifts down on a snowflake breeze. It says, "Welcome to the floating winter playground. Hold on to your hats."
Which is charming, but if I'm an 8-year-old looking up at a floating island, my hat is not my primary concern.
No, I'm worried about my life.
As you should be. And naturally, one of the kids, Max, he asked the question that any rational person would ask.
Is this safe?
Thank you, Max.
Finally, a pragmatist. And this is where we meet the system administrator, if you will.
A fluffy cloud that just puffs up beside the children.
And this cloud delivers the most important line in the entire piece, the one that sets all the rules for this whole simulation.
The cloud says, safer than it looks. Just remember, balance and kindness keep us floating.
Okay, hold on. Let's really look at that. Balance and kindness keep us floating.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Max, I'm not reassured by that. The cloud isn't saying, don't worry, we have reinforced steel beams.
Right. There are no hydraulic stabilizers mentioned.
It's saying the structural integrity of this thing depends on nice behavior. That feels incredibly fragile.
It feels fragile to us because we're used to systems where engineering and emotion are separate things. Bridges don't care if you're angry when you drive over them.
Right.
But here, the physics are moral physics.
Mm-hmm.
The buoyancy of the platform is literally dependent on the collective emotional state of the group.
It's like a trust fall, but the floor is the one that has to trust you.
Exactly. It's a brilliant metaphor because it makes this abstract idea of social cohesion into something tangible, a physical necessity.
So in this system, being kind isn't just nice.
It's a survival strategy. If you aren't kind, gravity fails.
That is a lot of pressure for Recess. But, they're kids. There's a glowing ladder.
So of course they're going to climb it.
Of course. The text describes this glowing ladder made of light, and when they step onto the playground, it's not hard or cold. It feels soft, like standing on a pillow made of snow.
That tactile detail is important. It suggests the environment is benevolent. It's designed to be gentle, to cushion them. It's inviting them to play.
Lowering their guard so they can enter the experiment.
Yep.
And the games. I'm an adult and I want to play these games. They're swinging through drifting clouds.
Playing tag by hopping from one cloud to another.
And my personal favorite, sliding down an Aurora slide into misty cushions. It sounds like the ultimate lucid dream, right?
It really does. And in this initial phase, the system is working perfectly. The Sky Games are running because the children are coming in with this sense of awe and caution.
They're respecting the environment.
But, as with any system involving humans, and especially kids, variables change. The novelty wears off, and instinct takes over.
And here's where it gets real. Because you can't just have a perfect utopia for the whole Recess. Eventually, someone wants to be first.
The text says, but soon, the playground wobbled.
Yeah.
And it's not just a little vibration.
And we have to look at the cause. It wasn't a gust of wind or some mechanical failure.
No, the story is very explicit. A few kids pushed ahead, racing without watching others.
So the disruption is just standard playground behavior. It's rushing. It's that me-first instinct.
It's the tragedy of the commons playing out in real time. You have this shared resource, the playground stability, and a few individuals decide to maximize their own benefit at the expense of the group's safety.
But here, the feedback loop is instantaneous.
And terrifying. Let's describe what actually happens, because the text gets pretty visceral here.
Yeah, it says the playground didn't just shake, it tilted. The swings are swaying wildly. The Aurora slide dips down at a dangerous angle.
Imagine being on a floating platform, hundreds of feet up, and suddenly the horizon is at a 45-degree angle. That's pure nightmare fuel.
It's vertigo induced by selfishness. And the Cloudar moderator goes into full panic mode.
It cries out, oh no, too much rushing. Our balance is fading.
Too much rushing. That's such a specific diagnosis. It doesn't say too much hate. It says rushing, a lack of consideration.
And rushing is the opposite of mindfulness, right? When you rush, you stop seeing the people around you as people. They become obstacles.
And in the system, when you stop seeing people, the system stops supporting you. The connection is severed.
So now we have a crisis. The playground is tipping. Kids are sliding toward the edge. It's chaos.
And this is the moment where the real question comes in. How do you stop a panic? Because usually when things start shaking, people run faster.
Which would only make this worse.
Correct.
Their instinct would be to scramble for safety, which would just destabilize the platform even more. They have to do the counterintuitive thing.
And the intervention comes from a character named Mia.
Mia is the MVP here.
Absolutely. In the middle of all of this tilting, screaming chaos, she doesn't run. She raises her hand.
Think about the power of that gesture. Raising your hand is a classroom signal. It's a symbol of order, of pausing.
She signals stop in the middle of a motion blur.
And she yells, let's slow down and help each other. Which sounds simple, but try saying that when the ground is tilting under you. It's incredibly brave.
She correctly identifies the root cause. She knows to fix the physics, they have to fix the behavior.
They don't need to hold on to the railings tighter, they need to hold on to each other.
And the text details that shift. It says the kids took turns, they helped friends cross tricky cloud steps.
And this is the one that really stood out to me. They cheered instead of rushing.
Yes. That shift from competition to support is what recalibrates the entire system.
Think about the energy difference. Racing is erratic, heavy, individualistic. Cheering and helping are coordinated, steady, collective.
They move from acting like loose marbles on a tray to a cohesive unit.
In the playground, it responds, it steadies. But it does more than that.
It glows brighter than before.
That's a crucial insight.
Yeah.
The system rewards the correction. It's not just returning to baseline. It's being optimized. It implies that a cooperative group is actually more structurally sound than a neutral one.
Okay, so the wobble stops. They aren't going to plummet to the earth. But the story zooms in on one specific interaction that I think is a microcosm for the whole theory.
Theo and Harper.
Yes. Up until now, we've been looking at the macrodynamics, the crowd.
Now we see the micro. Theo is described as a shy boy. He's at the top of the tallest slide, and he's just frozen.
We've all seen this kid at the playground. Or maybe we've been this kid. He whispers, "I'm scared."
Now, in the previous rushing dynamic, what happens to Theo?
He's a bottleneck, an obstruction. Kids behind him would be groaning, maybe pushing past him, telling him to move it.
He creates friction in this system.
Exactly. But because the group has shifted to this kindness operating system, the response is totally different. Harper doesn't tell him to move.
Harper stands next to him and says, "I'll go with you."
I'll go with you. It's such a simple solution, but it solves the structural problem. Theo's fear was paralyzing him.
Harper shares the burden of that fear. By pairing up, they convert a bottleneck into flow.
And they slide down together, laughing. But look at what the playground does. This is the part I think is really cool. The text says the playground floated higher, happier, steadier.
Higher, that's the key word.
Why higher?
Well, think about the metaphor of heavy emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Fear, isolation, stress. We describe those as weighing us down. We say we have heavy heart.
Right.
The story literalizes that. When Theo was scared and isolated, he was heavy. He was dragging the system down. When Harper included him, that weight just vanished. The system became lighter.
That is actually kind of profound for a story with a talking cloud. It's suggesting that inclusion isn't just a nice thing to do for Theo's feelings.
It's suggesting that inclusion actually improves the performance of the entire group.
Mm-hmm.
The whole playground gets an upgrade because one kid wasn't left behind.
It's an efficiency argument for kindness. A system where people are terrified or excluded is a system that's dragging, it's wobbling.
A system where people feel supported creates lift.
So they've mastered the mechanics, they've played the games, almost crashed the server, rebooted with teamwork, and now they've hit this peak performance state.
And then, inevitably,
The bell rings, recess is over.
the return to reality. The simulation concludes. The cloud bows to the children, which is a nice touch, and delivers the final analysis.
The cloud says, "You learned the secret. Play stays magical when everyone feels safe."
And that's the thesis statement right there. Play stays magical when everyone feels safe. It suggests that the magic, the fun, the creativity, the flow, it's conditional.
It relies entirely on that foundation of safety.
And not just physical safety, but psychological safety. Theo couldn't enjoy the slide until he felt safe. The group couldn't enjoy the tag game until they stopped rushing.
It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs just floating in the sky. You can't have fun if you don't feel safe first.
Exactly. And then the descent happens. The playground gently drifts back down and becomes ordinary again. The snow is just snow. The swings are just swings.
Gravity returns to his usual boring self.
But the text notes a lasting impact.
This is what I call internalized gravity. It says that even though the playground was ordinary again, every time the kids played kindly after that, it felt like they were floating just a little.
That's the real magic trick, isn't it? The playground didn't change them. The experience of the consequence changed them.
They now carry the simulation in their heads.
It's a conditioned response. They learned that kindness equals floating and selfishness equals falling. Even without the immediate biofeedback, they can feel the difference. They know what a wobbly social situation feels like now.
And they know how to steady it. The story sums up the core lessons as balance, patience, and inclusion. But I think the biggest lesson is about agency. The kids realized they were controlling the ride.
That's the empowerment piece. Caring for others keeps things running smoothly, whether on the playground or in life. It frames kindness as a control mechanism.
If you want a smooth ride, you have to do the maintenance work of caring for the people around you.
Or in life. That's the bridge to the real world, because we aren't usually floating on clouds. Most of us are in offices or stuck in traffic.
Or standing in line at the grocery store.
But the mechanics are arguably the same, just less visible. I mean, think about a toxic workplace.
Oh, I've been there.
Does it feel stable?
No, it feels like you're walking on eggshells. Or like the floor is tilted.
Exactly. When we lose patience, when we rush without considering others, when we exclude people, our systems wobble. Projects fail, communication breaks down, the environment becomes unstable.
It's the same gravity at work. We just don't have a magical cloud screaming at us when it happens.
We usually just have an HR department sending a passive-aggressive email.
Which is far less effective than a tilting floor, I would argue.
True. But the inverse is also true. The story says, when everyone plays kindly and looks out for one another, the world feels lighter and brighter.
It's framing kindness as a way to alter the texture of reality, to make the daily grind feel lighter.
It creates a more sustainable environment. Just like the playground steadied and glowed when they cooperated, our real-world environments stabilize when we apply those same principles.
We are all essentially standing on a platform held up by our social contracts.
It's a powerful takeaway from a story about a recess in the sky. We went from icy rainbows to organizational psychology pretty quickly there.
That's the power of allegory. It takes a complex dynamic, the tension between individual desire and collective safety, and paints it into a picture anyone can understand.
It makes the invisible visible.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the floating winter playground, we're left with this image of a lighter, brighter world that is created purely by looking out for one another. It turns out, gravity isn't the only thing holding us down or lifting us up.
Well said.
And I want to leave you with something to chew on as you go about your day, maybe while you're driving or sitting in your next meeting. We saw how the playground physically reacted, tilting, shaking, and nearly crashing when the kindness levels dropped.
It was a chaotic mess.
Right, so here's the provocative thought. If our real-world environments, your office, your living room, your city streets, physically reacted to our collective kindness levels, just like that playground did.
If the structural integrity of your building depended on the empathy of the people inside it.
Would we be standing on solid ground right now? Or would we be grabbing the railings for dear life?
That is the question.
And if you think you'd be wobbling, maybe it's time to raise your hand like Mia and say, let's slow down. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.